This is the Space Podcast.
So we got stocked up on lots of gin, lots of black label.
That's your prep.
Lots of black label.
That's your Corona prep.
Yeah, lots of red wine. Tons of cans of Amy's organic soups, and all that stuff.
I was going to say, because the last time we talked about coronavirus, I think you were anti-prep, but it was a different phase back then. So when did you cross the line and think, well, all the stores are going to be empty, so I better get some Amy's soup?
When my wife made me.
Oh, so you still wouldn't have?
Probably not. I would, yeah. I think it's not smart. You know, when I went to, I don't think that we're going to run out of food. I don't think we're going to run out of food. There has a lot of things have to happen for us to run out of food.
You can still order in as well. You just get coronavirus from the delivery guy.
Right, but I mean,
then you get it over with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you get it over with. You have permanent body damage.
Yeah, what's the story on that? It's not that funny, really.
No. Well, Rhett from Rhett and Link.
Yeah, I'm not me. I'm him.
Yeah.
And he said it.
You could just say that everything that you say that's offensive is not you.
Yeah.
Because you can claim to be Rhett from Rhett and Link. Because that's who you look like.
Fat Rhett.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it, but the fact is, when you have any sort of virus that's new, that's novel, you don't know what the long-term consequences are. Back in the SARS days, the treatments and the people who recovered from SARS, basically, their lives were a living hell afterward. They survived, but it didn't go very well. Anytime it's something new like that.
Which was also a coronavirus. SARS and MERS are the other two coronaviruses, right?
Yeah.
Middle Eastern.
I think so, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Syndrome, and then SARS.
Yeah,
I think those are both coronaviruses.
So it remains to be seen. I don't think that anybody who says anything about it right now can say anything about it with much confidence. So we can talk about it and say, well, this is what I heard, but we're not experts, so we shouldn't be putting out things on the news. If I was a news person, I wouldn't be blabbing about how this only affects old people. Though there are definitely cases of young people who are affected, probably. And saw a news story today about a 52-year-old guy who works in corrections dying, which is scary because he works in corrections, so that's prison, so it's probably spread throughout the prisons.
Right.
So you just don't know. You can say 10 years later, but you can't.
That's true. What if it ends up flipping and they're like, well, what we should have done was let all the old people die, because what we found is long-term, the immense pain that you'll be under will make you wish that you did. So we should have let those young people get tested and just let the old ones die for their own sakes. I'm not saying that would ever happen, but you know so little about it. You can't.
You just don't know.
Way,
but you can't approach it that way, but you can also always play it safe. I don't know exactly what's going on in Ohio where you are. I mean, we can kind of compare notes and talk about our respective governors, because our two governors, New York governor and Ohio governor, are really the two governors who are
in the
news. It is interesting.
Ohio went completely. They were more proactive than I think any other state. They were the first ones to announce that they thought they had over 100,000 cases, because they thought 1% were probably infected based on what they know about the disease, even though they couldn't test for it. The first ones to shut down bars and restaurants.
And you can't be critical of that. You can't be. Because you could say, oh, well, you're going too far. Well, what's wrong with going too far when you don't know what you're dealing with?
Right.
Who's going to say in 10 years, oh, you went too far with the safety measures? No, I don't think anybody's going to say that. In fact, most people are probably going to be saying, geez, we wish we had done that sooner.
Yeah.
I think it's quite smart. My question first is, why does the sign language interpreter for Mike DeWine look exactly like him? That's my question.
It does kind of look like him with a different kind of wig, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's the same person. It's his clone, and he brought it out for this.
They shoot everything twice, and they splice the footage together.
Yeah, and he puts on his funny faces for that. He's very expressive. I mean, the lady is very expressive.
He looks kind of like a
lady,
Who.
But yeah.
A Who from Whoville,
he
maybe?
Does. He looks like a Dr. Seuss character, and his doppelganger, who is a female sign language interpreter, who's actually him in disguise, or rather, he's her in disguise. I don't know which way it goes. it's weird, whatever is happening.
Yeah, he seems to be doing a good job, and I think they also announced that there will be no. Usually, there's a time limit on how fast you can get a turnaround for your unemployment benefits or checks, but they reduced that to 0, so you can get unemployment immediately if you're affected by it, like people that would work in restaurants and stuff like that. So that's good.
Do you think that's enough? Well, we can talk about more stuff later.
Yeah.
But I do want to just talk about specifically the Ohio thing because you have an insight on it that I think, we see it on the news. DeWine's all over the news.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that many people were paying attention to him outside of Ohio.
Well, it really looks to me like it's, national news. It looks like it's my governor and your governor, and that's
basically
what it is. Yeah.
I think no. I mean, we've been talking about coronavirus. I think maybe a little bit before. At least a lot of people locally. Like you don't hear about people talking like in everyday life. People online talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think we've been concerned about it maybe for a little bit longer, at least than the people in our own communities.
And I was concerned about it before that.
Right. Yes.
Since January 26th.
So I mean, I've been concerned about it for quite a while, but it didn't really hit home like how serious it was until they said, we think 100,000 people are infected right now already. That was crazy.
Right.
That was because Lorena was supposed to work the next day. She works at Macy's, my fiance. And it's in a bigger. We live in a very small town right now, probably only 2,500 people.
You live on the outskirts of a very small town, which is better.
So it's basically a rural area. You don't have to interact with anybody if you don't want to. But that's when we first realized, well, we should probably just not go out. So she called off work and we stayed home. But then I did go to the store one more time, and the whole time, I was thinking about the stream that people leave behind them, their wake, avoiding all possible. Like we talked about, it's like being in a pool, and you just imagine everybody's peeing in the pool around you, and you're trying to get away from wherever they are. But we were still surrounded by people, so maybe I got it there. I don't know. It might be too late. I might already have it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I feel the same way. I went to the supermarket today, and I feel that at least I'm doing something because I am wearing a mask, and I have a good mask. And we also ordered more. We ordered 180 masks from China from a secret source we have.
You tell me who it is.
No, I can't. I could probably hook you up if you guys need some. I could probably hook you guys up.
All the masks here are gone. I ran into one of those big ones, and that was the only one I could find. So I bought one of those. I mean, I can't use it until I cut my beard, so it will have no effect. But we have like 3 N95 masks and then one, giant whatever mask that's at another level higher.
So I want to ask you more about what's going on in Ohio,
sure.
but I do want to just mention one thing is that the thing that really bothers me is that there is this information going around that you don't have to wear a mask, that you shouldn't wear a mask, which is ludicrous. It's nuts because a mask, if you look back at all the photos from 1918, from the Spanish flu pandemic, that spread around the world from Europe, soldiers returning home that spread around the world. Yeah. You see people wearing masks for that because people understood that does reduce the risk, even back then, right?
Yeah.
In China, it's universal. Everyone has a mask. People even put, maxi pads over their noses, and I have some insane pictures of things that people put a grapefruit.
Yeah, but
on
it
front
does
of their
matter
faces.
like what. I mean, not everything works as a mask. Isn't it only N95? I mean, they say the guy that was on Joe Rogan, he said that it doesn't matter if you have just a regular surgical mask. It makes no difference.
It makes a difference in a couple different ways. So it does reduce if you have either, and this is from scientific papers that I read, if you have either an N95 or a regular surgical mask, it can reduce the number of airborne particles going into your mouth or into your nose, right? And also reduces the amount going out. And the study that I read said basically there was a 70% reduction. They did 2 case studies. There were 2 sites. There was
I would have
control.
to think, though, that the most important thing about the mask is the fit, because the surgical mask, it doesn't matter if something is in front of your face. Those surgical masks are open on the side.
That's true.
So your air is just going to come in and out here. It doesn't matter what's in front of your face.
It does to an extent. The studies I read,
because the air would just come in the side.
I can send you the links to the studies.
The air coming in the side.
Both studies that I read found there was an approximately equal benefit to wearing N95 masks and hand washing combined. So.
Well, yeah, N95 masks though are always
N95
fitting.
surgical and hand washing combined. So, and they did it.
I
It was
don't
pretty
believe
scientific.
that surgical masks have much effect, except to maybe stop people from putting out more germs. But as far as breathing, the fit would be very important, unless you're just going like this and you have it like pressed against.
You make a seal with your lips.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure to an extent that that's true, but I'm just quoting the paper that I read. There were two papers, and they both said essentially the same thing, that the mask helped up to 70% effective, up to 70% lower risk of getting the flu. They were around flu patients. They worked nurses in a hospital around flu patients wearing both one N95, one surgical masks, and it was approximately equivalent for the number of cases that they got. So
when I was in Mansfield, Ohio at Meyer on Saturday, 0 masks. Not a single person had a mask.
Yeah, nobody here is wearing masks either, except for one old lady.
But another reason for that is that they're all gone.
Right.
So the only people that got them were the ones that were prepping, a couple weeks ago, and now there's nothing left.
Well, the thing that I think should happen now is that there should be they should shut everything down. You have to flush it, basically, and the only way to flush it is to close it all down. People should only be able to go to the supermarket, maybe if they need to see a doctor, maybe. And
a certain amount of time, because at Meyer it was pretty jam-packed with people, and I think a lot of the stores, maybe it won't be like that now that people are all quarantine-based. They're not quarantined, but everybody's at home.
Did you see that video?
Because everything is closed.
Did you see that video I put together of those experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what you need. You have to have people checking temperatures at the gate. You have to have people checking temperatures at all the supermarkets. It's got to be vigilant. You have to have people everywhere checking temperatures. You have to have people everywhere doing tests. You have to have kits everywhere, because without visibility, you don't know what's going on, right? So now DeWine is doing something smart, because he can just say, well, let's just assume. If I'm wrong, then there's no downside. Well, let's assume, because it's probably true, because we don't have testing kits. That is a very smart way.
That's what the president should have done a month ago. That's why people are getting upset at him. But yeah, it's very smart to have your health expert come to you and say, this is what we know about the disease based on the low number of tests that we've done. It's very likely that this is how many people are infected based on where they're infected around the state. Right. And you just go with that. Go with the expert.
And people trust when, if you proactively give terrible news and you go out of your way to do it when it's inconvenient to you, people feel trust for that. People probably are feeling a lot of gratitude toward DeWine.
In Ohio, like on social media, you see people are they're proud that the governor is taking these steps.
Yeah, they should
be. It
be.
Seems like they're being a lot more intelligent than the federal government.
And I'm not seeing any because I'm seeing the same sort of things on my end, and I'm sort of seeing it at a national level because that's the news that I consume. I'm not seeing any partisanship there. It seems to be sort of a thing where the actions are disassociated from party. You know what I mean?
For governors, or at least DeWine, because there's a lot of people that oppose DeWine. He's a Republican.
Right.
But with this, even people of all political stripes are.
And I think the same thing goes for de Blasio. I mean, you can say things about de Blasio, but it's not easy to make the call to shut down all the schools, which happened yesterday. Sunday yesterday, they shut down all the schools.
Right. Well, but he got pressured on that too, because he was going to keep them open. He did multiple press conferences where he said he was going to keep them open. And there was like a hashtag de Blasio, you must close the schools and stuff like that.
Well, you have to also consider the position that someone like that is in to make that call, because you have to balance two things. You have to balance the children of healthcare workers, because if they don't have someone to take care of their children while they go into work, then there's another situation where there are fewer healthcare workers. It is a balancing act. So I agree with you. There should be pressure, but
I understand there's a different level to it in a large urban metropolis too, because you have lower income people that might not be able to watch their kids, and then if something happens for a month from now where they say 30 kids died from malnutrition or because something happened to them, their parents weren't around, the mayor must pay because he closed the schools. Who was the bastard that closed the schools? He's got that kind of consideration to make too.
Well,
so I'm curious to see how they will make up for that.
there's
Like,
that.
how are they going to feed those kids and make sure they're okay if they don't have?
I think we can get into those sorts of options. But I'm not trying to sound like a De Blasio shill or anything like that. But
I think he's okay.
I understand the dilemma there, because that is a real concern. The kids at home thing is a real issue, because in a huge city, when the healthcare system is starting to reach its strain point, if healthcare workers say, you know what, number one, it's very risky for me to go into work because I will probably get coronavirus. Number two, every day when I come home, I have to worry, am I spreading it to my kids and my mom? And number three, who's going to take care of my kid when I'm at work? So, you know what? Maybe I don't want to be a healthcare worker anymore. I'm going to take a 3-month hiatus. And then we're screwed in New York because of the population and because of the number of centers that need to be sort of available to patients. So I understand the calculation. And from what I heard in the press conferences, he always had the caveat, it is on the table. It is always on the table, and we might make a call. So, I mean, yes, maybe he should have done a suited, but
it was interesting.
I get it.
Yeah, how quickly it escalated, though, because remember when he gave one of the first press conferences, or it was still just last week, like Thursday or Friday or something. It was just a couple schools that were shutting down, like 2 or 3 in the whole city. I think it might have been Thursday. But one of them is on the street where Lorena's parents live. Like, it's on the corner of their street. And it was one of the 3 places in the city that was shut down. So I was like, oh, my gosh, we got to go run there and rescue your parents.
Chopper them back. Yeah.
And then the next thing that was announced was Ohio, 100,000 people already have it. And I was like, oh, I guess there's going to be no point in that. We got more than them. Well, but that was all just, a calculation to protect people. It probably, maybe it's better in Ohio. I don't know.
Who knows?
I would think being the only person on a country block, you're probably a little bit less likely, unless you go to Meyer.
As long as one of the Pretty Brothers survives, just do me one favor, Gabe.
Sure.
If I don't make it, can you, just once in a while, can you give Circle a pet for me?
I thought that's what it was going to be. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that, but that's all I'll do.
Give him a scratch, give him a pet. He likes it when you rub both sides of his mouth like that, right there. He likes it. If I don't
the same for my cats, please. Because, Ohio...
That's asking a lot. I want you to do that for me, but I don't want to do that for you.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
It's not a mutually beneficial.
No, I'm asking for a favor.
It's a one way.
And I think it's very presumptuous of you to ask for me to do that. That's reasonable. It's crossing the line.
Same for Christmas, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where's the gifts?
I've done a lot of horrible things in my life to you, Gabe.
No, I was just joking. I don't think you're actually like that. But it would be funny if you expected gifts from other people and then refused to give any. But you still expect them from others.
How many times have I done things like that, that feel like that feel sort of...
No, I think you're a nice guy.
Okay, wow, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to nurture that perception for a long time to come. I want to read a Trump tweet that I think is a turn that is not healthy.
I'm sorry. I got to stop. I'll stop pressing.
Hit the sound effects. Let's play it while I'm looking. So it's dead air, so hit some sound effects. This is the Gray Space, new Gray Space intro. Gabe, you want to sing?
No. Or this is gearing up for a Trump tweet.
Are you playing that?
Yeah. Well... They're just like you see how hard it is to play this. Check it out. Impressed, right?
That looks hard.
Hey man, hey man, hey man, hey man.
Gay men? Is that what that says? Gay men?
I think it says hey man, but it does sound like gay men.
Hey man, hey man, hey man.
No, that definitely sounds like gay men. Gay men, gay men, gay men.
Hey man, hey man, hey man, hey man.
Gabe, we're gonna get demonetized. Stop it.
Hey man, hey man, hey man, hey man.
Maybe it says Gabe men. Gabe men.
Hey man.
Yo.
This is good. I like it.
Where's the Trump tweet?
All right, I've got it. I've been ready for a while. I've just been enjoying the... do you have a Trump tweet sound effect?
Let me see. It's like a dolphin sound. Does that work?
Yeah, not really. Play the one... No, play the Miss Jackson one. You got that?
Oh no, I have to. I'd have to do other things. No, you could just play. Just go ahead and read it. Sorry. Oh, bonjour.
Bonjour. Ah.
Which one do you want?
All right. Now I think you've done too many.
We're just done.
Yeah.
Okay,
we're
I'm
done
sorry.
now.
You
Yeah,
didn't cut
I
that
feel
out.
like
Just read the tree. I realized I messed it up, so I just went with it.
yeah, the twump tree. Got it. The United States will be powerfully supporting those industries like airlines and others that are particularly affected by now here comes the name, the Chinese virus. We will be stronger than ever before. So I have two major problems with this as a presidential matter. Number one, if you start calling it the Chinese virus, you're gonna start dividing where division is really not necessary. And a lot of healthcare workers in the United States are of Chinese descent or Chinese Americans, and they're gonna feel very upset by this. And I know that for a fact because I know some of them. Number two, obviously, supporting industries like airlines is a slap in the face to saying what is actually should be supported. Right now, the imminent danger is not airlines. It is the people who work at the airlines, or it is you and it is me. It is people who are out of a job. It is people who can't go to work, who can't pay their rent. I mean, luckily, I work online mostly, and so my life, apart from where I walk, is virtually the same as it was before. But I think I'm in the vast minority of people. I mean, I this is what I do anyway, right? The only difference is I walk only in the cemetery instead of around the neighborhood because the cemetery is empty. It's my walking place.
Right.
Otherwise,
and that's where we're all headed.
Is different.
Might as well get acquainted with
right,
it.
exactly. Yeah, I think I'm just sort of letting all the ghosts know I'm telling them what's coming, guys. Make room. Put out the decorations. A lot of incoming spirits coming into the cemetery.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is probably responding in like an international way because China's recently they said the U.S. military planted the virus, so he's probably just reacting to that, right?
You got a tone playing. Are you playing that intentionally?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're just trying to set a mood for what you're saying. You're doing a thing like
this is what you're feeling about what I'm saying. Yeah, this is like NPR. And then how did that make you feel?
I haven't watched NPR in 10 years, so I don't know what they do anymore. Is that what they do? They play tones and ask questions like that? How does that make you feel?
And this was the first time that Charlie had talked to Ruth like this.
About what? What are they talking about? Is Charlie a child or a grown man?
I don't know.
Is Ruth his grandma? Charlie is the grandson. He's 3 years old. He's being a rude little brat, or is it two grandparents?
Ruth killed Charlie's parents, and he's visiting her in prison, and he realizes that he's actually he is going to use him as a replacement for his dead parents, even though she killed them. And they would do this over the course of 10 episodes with low tones.
Yeah. And they narrate it like that.
Yeah.
And that's when Ruth knew.
Have you ever seen the Portlandia one where they make fun of NPR?
No,
where they have they're playing like a violin. They're in the police station interviewing people about a murder.
That's not an NPR one. That's making fun of podcasters. Ironically.
I thought that was making fun of
I think
NPR podcasters.
Well, I think they're making fun of podcasts in general, which is I think that's what we're doing now, especially once you started with the tones there. And then Gabe talked to Luke about his opinions about the coronavirus, and Luke listened.
The thing
to
about
what
this
Gabe
low drone
said.
is it takes a long time to get going. It really takes a while to build up.
Just imagine that was playing when I just said that.
Lower tone.
Ooh, nice. There you go. That's it. That's it.
This is the tone you wanted?
That's the coronavirus tone. Right.
It's kind of boring.
It is. Yeah. Stop it. So getting back to Ohio, what I've seen is basically you've got every school is closed. and
Mhm.
are they encouraging people to not go to restaurants and stuff? What are you seeing in Ohio?
It's not encouraged. It's
Well,
I mean,
just tell me what the
yeah,
policy. What are you
sure.
getting fed and told?
Well, yeah, the big shock was them saying the 100,000 people were likely infected. That was the main thing. And then they announced there would be 3 weeks off of school, no exceptions, all the schools in Ohio. And the same day they said no gatherings of over 100 people.
Okay.
I think then, yesterday they announced after finding out that there were still people congregating in bars and just acting like there was no issue at all.
As you would expect.
They had, right. So they came out with the shutdown of all restaurants and bars, no exceptions. You can still do takeout, but yeah, you can't go to a restaurant or bar.
You're legally obligated to grab the takeout bag like this and carry it
Yeah.
like that. You can't grab it with your fist. You have to grab it with your two fingies like that.
I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't taking it seriously at all,
Yeah.
though.
Well, the stuff that really bothers me is the conspiracy stuff, right? That's the stupid stuff.
I'm not that bothered. Some of it
No, I mean the idea
curious
that
about,
the government is trying to corral us and put us into they're prepping us for some wide, broad, sweeping action. You know, that's the ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting idea. It's funny that it's happening, the same year as an election, and that they're canceling primaries. But I know that it's just a coincidence.
It's a coincidence.
But
yeah.
Well, it's just you have the protests in Hong Kong that no longer exist. You have, if let's just entertain the theory just for fun. If there
All
were
right.
an elite like Illuminati or whatever, and they knew
God,
that they were gonna,
yeah, uh-huh.
I'm just saying.
Play a drone. Play a
the
tone.
builder.
Play
They
it.
say your Bilderbergers
Yeah.
are at their Bilderberg group,
Right.
and
Knights of
they're
the Templar.
they're planning and they're scheming together
sharpening their swords.
about what's going to happen, and they know that they're going to piss the population off so much that the revolt is finally going to occur.
Ruth is there.
They might
She's
as well
the
just
leader.
release one of these viruses they got hanging out and get everybody corralled and contained and teach them the new way of things. Yeah, that's all I got.
But okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's silly, right? That nobody buys that because you can track it. I mean, it's obviously from an animal. It's not an artificial virus. You saw that Joe Rogan
Well, that's according
podcast.
to the experts,
That's
right? I
according
mean, the
to-
guy that worked in the government, yeah. Now I
God.
sound like Eddie Bravo.
You do. You sound like a
yeah.
this is unacceptable. It really is.
No, I don't believe that because it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's too big to make sense. Because now people in China are already going back to work, and next week they're going back to school. They are going back. So the people in Hong Kong are welcome to start protesting again.
Yeah, hopefully they do. And I saw that they were doing yellow vest protest in France, even though they were
See,
from it. So that's yeah.
why would you do that? So that's like trying to kill an ant with 35,000 sledgehammers. You know what I mean? It just seems sledgehammers. It doesn't make sense. It's
it seems far too right, and it seems to be hurting all sides, all political movements, it's affecting everything in the same way. It's not like it's
Right.
Equally.
And you can't tell me that any government is willing to shoot themselves in the foot to that extent. That is an extreme sword to the belly. Okay, so first of all, the Chinese government in Beijing doesn't even care about the protesters in Hong Kong. They don't care. They are just a bunch of people protesting something, and the Chinese government is like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't bother them. They can go about their own business. It's completely separate in a way because it's not doing anything. It's not changing anything. I have my own opinions about the Hong Kong protest stuff, and
I don't know enough about the politics to even comment.
It's like if you were being pestered by microbes. You would barely notice it, right? I mean, it might be a slight inconvenience, but there's not really much for them to worry about, the Chinese government to worry about. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the extent to which the economy in China has suffered doesn't match. That is a major mismatch, and so I think any correlation there is very conspiratorial and very sort of wishful thinking in terms of, oh, geez, I hope this grand conspiracy is true.
Yeah.
That now if the American government is responsible for anything related to this, they are also, once again, they are trying to stab us through their own stomachs because they are destroying faith in themselves by trying to do what exactly? Stop the primaries because of what? Because of Bernie Sanders?
No, yeah,
What is the thing that they're getting out of this deal? The economy is being destroyed. The stock market is falling
Right.
faster than
That's the thing.
did during 2008.
This is,
you know what I mean? It's not.
if there's any the whole conspiracy about the New World Order or anything would be like a more of a one world cohesive government ruled by elites, not splintering into separate countries with new, more strengthened borders. This is like an anti, globalism event. This makes countries more nationalistic, which is the opposite of what the theory would have said before.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying maybe there's some sort of shadow organization like the
James Bond guy,
Disney
Spectre?
kids. What are they called?
The Musketeers.
Musketeers, who
Those
are
Ryan Gosling and Britney Spears, or
Ryan Gosling, Britney
Timberlake.
Spears, and Justin Timberlake are responsible for trying to undermine all government.
Correct.
So that nations are more splintered. But what are they getting out of it as well, other than record deals? And
Yeah, I
movies?
really don't. I don't buy it. It just doesn't. I don't see any benefit to it really. The one that, if we want to stick on conspiracy theories and bad positions on things, I'm kind of changing my mind on like gun control for semi-automatic weapons. Not that I'm not a gun owner. I don't like guns. I've never liked guns. I've always been anti-gun in that I thought having a gun was pointless. If you're going up against the government, supposedly the Second Amendment is supposed to allow the people to overthrow a bad government.
Where's the nuke
really,
store? Where's the drone store?
Right, exactly. Like, people shouldn't have the right to own weapons of mass destruction. You shouldn't be able to nuke your neighbor.
Did you know that you can buy? Did you know that you can buy a drone, a military drone that drops nukes at Walmart now? It's on sale.
If your neighbor pisses you off, you can send them.
Comes with a free joystick with a big red button.
But it's hard to even talk about anything before coronavirus because everything else seems small and stupid now. But going back to the election, how the DNC was obviously rigging things again, how the financial system is obviously corrupt, and right now they're still propping that up and not giving money to the middle class and the poor.
Did you see? I know you don't like David Pakman, but did you see his tweet?
I'll have to check it out.
I don't like him either, but it shows a bump that goes up. Sorry for interrupting you. It goes up and then down within 1 hour. Within 1 hour, it goes like that.
Oh, you're talking about the Fed pump?
It's a triangle, and that is a $500 billion flushing money down the toilet.
While
1 hour bump. It's insane.
I've watched the stock market live every day, all day on the side as I'm working, and referenced it for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I've been like watching almost every moment while I'm working.
Yeah.
And I'm working too. You got to trust me. But I'm just looking over it on the side. Anyway, what I was saying about gun control, just the fact if Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden and people of the establishment are so concerned with taking away the weapons, I do think it is valuable. Like if there was an establishment government that was bad and did try to carry things out on the people, I think they would
carry
sleep
things
easier.
out on the people. Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean? Carry things out on the people. What does that mean?
I don't know. It doesn't. You have to do what the government says, basically.
Okay.
The government has power over you. They can do anything they want to you. I don't know what they would do. I know that sounds really conspiratorial, but
it does.
I'm just saying.
Pete Buttigieg hosting late night television.
That needs to end. Yeah.
Unhealthy.
Just saying. What the Taliban? Afghanistan is only 35 million people, I think, and America is a country of 370 million. They held their own quite well against the United States Armed Forces over a period of however many years.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think
But
it's
we don't have the
beneficial to have
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
35 million Americans with automatic weapons in their garage just in case. I think that's a good balance to government power.
Can you give me a tone?
It'll take a while to get started. It's like on a delay, and I
Oh,
don't even know
yeah,
how to use
it's-
my own equipment.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad, isn't it?
It is sad. I'm counting on you
Well-
as the zinger guy, and drop.
These
the
are
ball
long
time
tones.
after time.
Okay, tell me what you want to say.
Wait.
As he thought about it, it really started to make sense. I can't get that. What is that? How do they do that sound? The NPR voice?
I don't listen to NPR. I don't know.
Oh, you don't listen. Oh, okay,
You
have
said
to,
"oh" in the NPR voice.
Oh,
Oh, I see. I didn't realize that.
I think it's called vocal fry, but I can't quite. It's like this. We're not quite sure about what you want to say, but you want to say it.
I don't know.
Your tone went away. You waited too long.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to use it. So you don't agree with that?
It doesn't make sense to me. Not really. No, I don't think I do, because I don't think that anybody is organized enough to be able to put forward a gigantic conspiracy against anything, in particular the United States government. I think they're too incompetent. I think there are too many people involved. I think there are too many old ladies and dudes who work in the government who would hear about it and just go home and drink a glass of rosé and tell their kids about it by accident. I think human beings are too incompetent to hatch any sort of great and grand conspiracy. The real conspiracies will happen when AIs are in charge of things and there are no exceptions to any sort of communication gaps or barriers. That's when real conspiracies
Can you
will
see
happen.
how like
I think it's a
rigging a
mentality.
primary or getting rid of the democratic process is a precursor to a totalitarian government?
Not
a little bit.
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. I mean,
Don't
I'm
think-
sure it's happening.
no.
I think it can happen. I think it happens. I think it could happen potentially, but I don't think it's happening now because I think the level of incompetence is too
I
great.
think it's a concern.
There's a level of incompetence that is too great for it to be a real thing.
I used to think that, but it seems like a combination of media. It doesn't matter how incompetent it is; it still worked. I thought I saw something recently about they accidentally released the results of Biden winning a state where the primary didn't yet occur. I think I heard Jimmy Dore just say that. I need to confirm before I say that for sure.
This is becoming very conspiratorial. So I mean, the Biden thing is the perfect example of the establishment, media, people, everybody suddenly realizing that there is only one horse that could potentially defeat this person who actually is a genuine human being who represents the people, who has more power for a genuine, real human being who actually cares than anyone has ever had before, which is, by the way, not enough for actually winning. He probably won't actually win the primary, but it's more than anyone should have according to the establishment. They have to jump on that, but they did it too late and they almost dropped the ball. And so seeing the scramble, seeing the ball dropping, seeing the incompetence and the probably Obama behind the scenes making phone calls and sending out faxes to people to fall in line, that probably happened. But I think that's the extent of the conspiracy, is the establishment coalescing.
I mean, the extent of the conspiracy is that 2 times America chose a president that was blocked by the establishment, so it's not a democracy.
Isn't Donald Trump a proof of concept that there is no great grand conspiracy? Because who would allow that to happen?
Well, no, I think that's proof of concept that humans have a certain frailty. So even if when they do make their grand conspiracies, it doesn't turn out the way that they anticipated.
Donald Trump is part of no conspiracy. He is, if anything, he is himself, right? He is
to a degree. He's definitely the more democratic choice between Hillary Clinton and
for sure.
Donald Trump. He's the democratic choice.
So in other words, in order to enact the sort of grand schemes that you're sort of alluding to, I think you would need a sort of cohesive network of ideas moving forward over decades in order to complete them. And I don't think there's anything like that going on because there's nothing that coherent nothing that cohesive, nothing with that sort of vision that can happen. I think it's a scramble. I think there are malevolent forces. I think there are establishment people who have power and know about levers that people who are just normal people don't have access to. That is absolutely true. It's absolutely there. But I don't think it's any sort of great demonic intelligence pulling the levers behind the scenes, controlling everything. There's nothing like that going on. I don't think there's any sort of grand scheme to
I just think it would be nice. I think it would be, maybe it's not so much about what the government does to the people as that the people should have the right to overthrow the government if they want, if they decide to. That's built into the United States.
It's supposed to be, but it's a flawed premise because of the drone thing.
Well, no, they shouldn't have drones, but I'm just saying if all 35 million people with automatic weapons marched on Washington, they would take over the government.
Yeah, maybe.
They would overthrow the government.
Maybe.
You could do a revolution. There should always be enough firepower in the people to do a revolution. Even if you have nuclear weapons, you can't just nuke all the people. That's why they can't win in Afghanistan. So I'm just saying, and especially in America.
George Bush? Nuclear.
I'm sticking with the 90s or whatever.
It's nuclear.
Do people nuclear?
Nuclear.
Nuclear.
That's
what did I say? Nuclear? Oh, nuclear.
Nuclear. Nuclear. George
well,
Bush.
I'm kind of an idiot. Yeah. Okay. Nuclear.
It's nuclear.
Nuclear.
George Bush. Pronunciation.
Nuclear. Mission accomplished. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Well, no. I think there is a possibility of conspiracy is always a possibility, and I think it should always be on the table. And I would be a simpleton to say that it's not a possibility.
Sorry.
On the other hand, I also think that there is a natural human tendency, especially in particular types of psychological configurations, to default to that natural human tendency.
Definitely.
And the problem is that people jump to that too easily. And I think that there's a... I'm good, Mushroom, but let me smell it. I'm not hungry.
What's that?
Oh! I can't wait to eat it tomorrow. But maybe.
What is it?
I'm good. I'm good.
Hi, Mushroom.
Mushroom making delicious Chinese dishes.
It looks really good.
It's so good. Oh, my God. Good job, Mushroom!
That's a pangolin?
Yeah, that's pangolin nose.
Great. That's cool.
It's my third favorite dish. I like...
I completely agree. It was like, do you ever watch
Bat?
Dan Aykroyd?
Bat.
Oh yeah.
Pangolin and
civet cat.
Chimpanzee and then civet cat. Yeah.
Tufted civet cat tail hair.
Yeah, or civet cat that's been digested in the stomach of a chimpanzee.
All served on a pangolin snout.
All served on a pangolin snout, surrounded by pangolin scales, and topped with a garnish of bat wings. Bat wing bones. Yeah.
Don't forget the blood that you can put on the top.
Yeah. You can decorate your eyebrows with bat. As you eat.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. I don't know. This is
I'm
off
thinking
the rails.
of the Dan Aykroyd interview on Joe Rogan, and you ever watched that?
Mm-mm. No, I'm annoyed by Dan Aykroyd. Sorry, everyone.
It's an example of a conspiracy person. He's not just into one conspiracy. He's into all of them. And he tells you why they're all true. I mean, why can't there just be a conspiracy person that honestly believes in Bigfoot, but they don't believe in aliens, they don't believe in ghosts? There are, but that is more legit than just being obviously into everything that's
right.
The alternative of the established truth. Right. It shows that it is, because there's no way you could be on every side of every issue, just like the political spectrum.
Yeah.
How could you really agree with every single thing?
I mean, Gabe,
the Democrats
here
or the
we
Republicans?
are on Gray Space Podcast. The reason for the name Gray Space is that there's no such thing there's no such thing as black and white. There's no such thing as a binary yes or a no. Everything is a gradient. So yes.
What about the ends of the spectrum?
Well, ends of the spectrum are sort of platonic solids. They exist in theory, but there's never anything that exists in a pure form. Almost never. Yeah. Anything that exists in a pure form. Everything is a gradient. And so the reason that this podcast is called Gray Space is because everything is a discussion of what is where on that gradient scale. And so that the conspiracy theory has to always be on the table, but it has a burden of proof.
Right.
It must be proven. And it
But
must
yeah,
be
I
proven
guess
beyond a
what-
reasonable doubt. And there also has to be an acknowledgement of that opposite fact, that this is a natural tendency for some people.
That's true. I guess where it relates to politics and government, it seems like conspiracy theories are more and more believable because so many things come out across time. What the CIA was up to, fiddling around here or there, doing their shenanigans. There's just so many things you find out, and you're like, God, geez. So it's almost you can't even decide what's going on until 10 years later because we're not in the know. But when you take that outlook and apply it to every aspect of your life, that doesn't really make sense. Just because the CIA messes around in Venezuela doesn't mean that
Right.
necessarily that the moon landing was faked or that Bigfoot is real. It's not part of the same world necessarily.
It's part of the circuitry of the human brain. We are, in fact, primates, and we are, in fact, sort of coded with certain natural tendencies. One tendency is pattern recognition. And pattern recognition is to be able to say, for example, that the lady who got eaten by the crocodile because yesterday the old shaman saw a sparrow flying over the ridge, and then it suddenly dived down over the ridge. So there's some sort of, because there's a pattern recognition. You look up at the stars and you see a lion. You look up at the stars and you see a plow, or whatever it happens to be. If humans hadn't evolved with the capacity for pattern recognition, the ability to take this and put this with this, there's a great chapter in the book that I recommended to you by Carl Jung called Modern Man in Search of His Soul. There's a great chapter that we actually discussed in my book club that meets every week that we talked about in the first week about archaic man. Archaic man had the implicit assumption. He was the ultimate conspiracy theorist. Archaic man was connecting every event that happened with another event. You see,
Alex Jones is archaic man.
Every human being basically was Alex Jones. Essentially, there is
something.
There is an anteater that's some animal, an anteater or something like that, that's out during the day that shouldn't be out during the day. Normally, you don't see it during the day because you see it during the daytime. It portends something evil in the future. And so we have to kill it, then we have to kill a cow, and then my niece's uncle has to eat the first bite of the cow, and then I have to eat it, and then my nephew has to eat it. It has to go to a certain order. If it doesn't, there will be bad luck, and if something bad happens, it's because we didn't
a pangolin is a form of anteater as well.
Just right. So there is this natural tendency that I think we have to guard against, and if I sound like I am in favor of, or I am sort of a shill for anything, it's because I'm always trying to defend against that mentality or that psychology, which I hate. But I also obviously hate totalitarianism, and I just don't see it that often, in fact, because I don't see any grand plans, because I see incompetence everywhere.
I guess, the only reason I started thinking of it was that Pete Buttigieg was for taking away guns, so I thought, well, then it must be good to have guns. Whatever Pete Buttigieg is for, I'm generally against as a rule.
That's fair. That's fair. Fair. Yeah.
That's all. I don't really know for sure. I mean, mass shootings are obviously terrible, and mental health is a problem. People shouldn't be allowed to just decide to kill that many people and have it be that easy. So I guess there's some consideration about what is more important. I don't know. Isn't it weird that we're in the year 2020, the far distant future, and people are still backwards about very small things? Like you talked about, in 1918, they wore masks. They recognized the danger. Yeah. And now we have a president that's going around shaking hands with people and then shaking hands with other people. And they're not even practicing what they're preaching to the general public. They're all standing close together. They're not practicing social distancing. Mike Pence, how many people has he met that are sick? And they're still all like right next to each other.
Yeah.
It's just a big, and the stock market and all that. It's just like
theoretically we're supposed to be enlightened in the year 2020, but it's clear that
but obviously we're dumber
we're about
than
in the same place. Well, that's the thing about archaic man. There was also a certain intelligence to archaic man's theories, predictions. There's a certain intelligence there and a coherent logic, at least. And it means that while we have logic and we have science today, we're still able to or we're still susceptible to.
Apparently, we have all the science in the world, but if you have no intention of using it, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess, I mean, there's a variety of ways or reasons that the coronavirus turned into what it was. I mean, China withheld, they did the old authoritarian thing and didn't let the information out, tried to pretend it wasn't as big a deal as it was, or maybe didn't listen to people in their own country at first. And then they, went full lockdown and you could see what was going on. But we still don't know anything about the numbers and whether or not they're accurate. I mean, they're probably not accurate if it's
for two different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One reason is that it's the Chinese government, and any number from the Chinese government is going to be lowballed. Second reason is that you only know what you test, and so you test a certain number of people and you get a certain number back, and you didn't test everybody. So if we tested everybody in the United States, if we tested everybody in New York, we would suddenly realize how serious this is. If everyone in New York were tested right now today and we had the results within 24 hours, people would say, Jesus Christ, what's happening in
That's
New
the
York?
thing. It's when people are saying, well, there's only been 5 people tested, or 5 people have it, but you say, okay, but only 500 people were tested.
Right.
That's terrifying.
Well, and it's even more than that. It's more like 500 people were tested, 300 people have it. It's more like that. That's why DeWine, I think that's why your governor.
Oh, mine? Thank you very much.
I think that's why your governor realized that sometimes you have to err on the side of freaking out about something because not doing so has a much greater risk than doing so, right?
Mm-hmm.
The assumption of this number out of this many people, let's look at the percentage, let's look at the ratio. This number out of this many people is infected. This is the rate. This is the ratio. Let's blow that out to the population of Ohio. It's time to freak out once you do that. And if you do that for New York, I'm sure it's the same. They're not saying that for New York, but they probably should.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, how many people would it be? I mean, it's been there longer than it's been in Ohio, based on the population.
I'll bet it's a very large number. I'll bet it's a very large number. I mean, there are stories of apparently the healthcare system is being stressed. I haven't been to a hospital recently, but I have to assume that's true. I hear a lot of ambulances, but I also always hear a lot of ambulances.
That's true. Yeah, there's constantly ambulances.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
The
when
thing is,
people
the ambulances always come around when I'm recording a video or something.
Yeah.
It's sort of like they're on a loop, and they know Luke's recording a video. Let's go on a loop.
Light them up.
They go around the square, and they just keep the siren on for 8 hours.
They watch your stream, and as soon as you're done, they shut down the sirens, and they wait for tomorrow. They park and wait.
There's a bell for fires. There's a bell for emergencies and heart attacks, and there's a bell for when.
I've got guys around here. They wait for me to try to make a video, and then they get in their trucks, and they drive past. They're waiting out there now. They're waiting for me to make a video. It might be weeks, but they're gonna wait.
Yeah, they're sitting there with the foot right above the gas pedal. They're ready to floor it, and they've got their mufflers off. Because it's Ohio.
That's right. We've all got coronavirus.
Yeah. Do you have any muffler sounds on your soundboard?
No.
All right. So I think we've talked about coronavirus and conspiracy theories enough.
Mostly,
Maybe we can get into
conspiracies. Yeah, I'm done with conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Sick and tired of it. Maybe we can get into some of the possible solutions to it. So a couple things. There's coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
UBI plans supported by Andrew Yang and the like.
I don't like to say Andrew Yang's name anymore.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. But coronavirus response packages that involve giving people money.
Yeah, you could say UBI.
UBI for coronavirus. Who's the guy who supported it recently? Who's a Republican? What's his name?
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney supports UBI, sending people $1,000 a month or more for the coronavirus.
I think some people have mentioned $6,000. I don't know if they mean that to cover a 6-month period, like a lump payment or what. But do you remember? I think
people would blow it on party poppers.
The first day.
I know the coronavirus is here, but I got to buy $6,000 of party poppers.
Now I finally have enough money to throw that 200-person party I was planning.
I'm gonna throw it for myself. It's gonna be hard to blow $600,000 of party poppers in 24 hours, but I'm gonna do it. Or 6,000, not 600,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Then finally, you have enough money to invite the number of friends over that you can pack into a close space. Whereas
Yes.
before, previously, you wouldn't have had enough money, and you could only invite 4 or 5 friends over.
And if they don't come, then I'm gonna have to pop all of them one by one by myself all night.
you could at least mail them a letter and lick a stamp, and
Yeah.
mail it to them.
Yeah. Please
Just
put
try
your-
to spread. Are you scared? Speaking of that, are you scared to order things like on Amazon? Would you order a package and let it sit for a couple of days, or wash the outside of it? Or
I haven't gone that far yet. I mean, people come to my door and bring things, packages, and they're not wearing a mask. But I'm nervous about it. I think about it. It goes through my head. But I haven't yet gone so far as to be scared of the person delivering the package, although maybe I should be.
in New York, I probably would be. I mean, who is more likely to have it than somebody that handles all these packages and meets tons of people and travels the whole city?
Yeah, fair enough. But what do I do to deal with that? Because
I mean, you could at least just sanitize the outside of it. Get some, I don't know, Clorox
what about
wipes,
packages that
rubbing
require
alcohol.
a signature?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You just can't.
I just assume I have it, so probably have it. So whatever.
Yeah, maybe you're one that just has it I mean, a lot of people have it in an almost latent way, right?
Yeah.
Where they just carry it and infect and kill everyone else, and then
Like me.
you seem like that type of guy.
I'm that guy.
Yeah,
Walk
I mean,
around the cemetery and spread it around the cemetery. I
old
do
people that
go
you
for a
can't
walk.
kill. Yeah.
I do go for a walk in the cemetery every day now because I want to
Just
get
recently?
well.
You want to get in tune with death?
No, I want to. I feel like I need to get my steps in because I always used to go for a walk. I mean, I always go for a walk. I try to get 10,000 steps in per day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of my goal, 10,000 steps a day, and I combine that with whatever I happen to be reading or listening to at the time, whatever book
cool.
I happen to listen to. I sort of combine them together. I pair them. But I feel uncomfortable walking through busy streets in Forest Hills or something like that. It just seems like I should always be wearing a mask. So I put on a mask anyway, and I walk through the cemetery. And that's what I've been doing.
You feel
for the past 2
yourself
weeks.
like transitioning to becoming more like ghoul-like, or becoming more translucent or anything?
I have been thinking about this. What about a story where someone rents the place where they're going to be buried well before they are, because they want to create a sort of transition between their life and their death, and they lay
Cool.
on top of their burial site every day for maybe 20 minutes just to sort of prepare. And then the only difference between that and then when they actually die is that, well, one, they're dead, and two, is they're just slightly lower than they were
Well, it would be
before.
cool if, if they did this over a period of years, they could actually start leveling and digging
Yeah,
it down.
that is even better. I like that better. I didn't think about that before. But that would,
true transition, right?
I think that would at least catch the attention of whoever's running the simulation right now, because this is a very interesting interesting release that we've done here to allow me or whoever it is to go to version 2 or at least the next season. My goal is to be noticed. I want to be noticed by the people who are creating the simulation so that I'm not discontinued and I'm not sort of
This
shelved.
is making I mean, the Matrix really looks prescient, right? Under those circumstances.
Do you ever
Just
think
stance.
about that? If on the assumption that this is a simulation, and that because it recently, I feel like it feels more like a simulation than usual.
Is that how ridiculous it's getting?
Well,
it does seem.
just in general. I feel like things are almost more cartoony than they used to be. So it seems like
Yeah, they're
there are
pretty silly.
certain buttons being pushed in the same way that you're pushing your sound effects buttons. The simulators are sort of pushing certain buttons. Coronavirus.
Are you really gonna?
And they push it, and it seems like
So whoever wins is the one that just says no, stop it, this is dumb.
it's the one who says, I'm
You
interesting
really have-
enough to go into the next version at least. Don't discontinue me. Don't cancel my subroutine,
Or,
basically.
yeah, somebody who opts out of the scenario, but you have to really believe it.
This one he's literally laying on top of his grave. This guy's nuts. You see this guy? There are people sitting around this watching it.
Yeah,
The
But-
simulators are sitting around and they're picking out the people who stand out, who are most interesting. So I'm not even doing this, so I'm just talking about it. I'm not sure if talking about it is interesting enough, but the idea of it would be interesting enough to the people running the simulation, which doesn't exist.
Yeah, I guess you don't know unless you really test yourself by jumping off a cliff or something and, disbelieving the gravity.
If you were going to place your bets, and I know this is a little off topic, where would you place them?
On what?
Simulation.
Oh, whether or not it's true? I would think that maybe it's just a different way of looking at whatever already is.
That's kind of a
simulation, kind of a cop-out.
Yeah, simulation is actually a digital.
I don't like simulation to. I sure hope that it's not run by humans, because if the humans are in charge, I don't know. There would be more glitches. I mean, there's been no glitches. It might be ridiculous.
I mean, it's probably some sort of
hyper-futuristic
omniscient beings of some kind, right?
But usually, anything that's man-made or man-run always has
man-made means the people in the simulation, so that doesn't even count.
True.
Yeah.
Well, so then it's nothing to do with us. I mean, it might as well be God if it's not us.
Well, yeah, they would be gods, right?
Yeah.
The people who run the
So
simulation.
that's what I'm saying. It's basically the same as religion then.
That's an interesting point, because so I like the simulation theory, but I also feel that it doesn't matter to an extent. And for anyone who is listening to this who doesn't know the theory, basically it's the idea that if you project forward current computing technology, you will eventually have the computing power. Eventually, maybe 300, 400, 500 years, maybe 1,000 years. You will eventually have the computing power to create universes to the subatomic level, where you're able to create sentient life, you're able to create supernovas, and it just goes by itself. And if you have one computer that can do that, then you can press go on a universe, and time is relative within the universe. You have a sort of separation between yourself and the time in the universe, and entropy, which measures time. And so essentially, in that situation, it's likely that there won't be only one computer running the simulation. And if there isn't only one computer running the simulation, then why wouldn't 100,000 or 1,000,000 people be running simulations on their computer, picking out the interesting characters? Maybe that's the entertainment of the future, right? So then you have, in the future, the distant future, our own ability to create new universes, and we will be running simulations of universes on computers. So then you have simulations of universes running on computers that are in simulations of universes running on computers. And when I say computers, I mean that in the broadest possible sense. And so the likelihood that we're in base ground level universes is very low. And the likelihood that we're one of the 1 to, for example, 1 billion that is in a simulation is very high. And so if you assume that, you can sort of look around and wonder what it might be like. But if you were in a simulation that's perfect, why does it matter? Because the people running the simulation are not even human. They're beyond us in intelligence, and they're essentially gods anyway. So whatever.
It's not that. I mean, you could extrapolate some Christian theology into that.
Sure, why not?
Extrapolate. Yeah.
You could extrapolate anything.
All human beings are supposed to be children of God, and eventually they will be at the right hand of God and be gods themselves. So perhaps God is what we are currently, and has gone through that cycle, and is through like a big bang is the willing out or the idea or expression of that being's. I don't know what it would be. Experience replayed, or I'm not sure. But
well, if it's a sort of fractal, a lot of things in the universe are fractal in their shape, right? And if that's one of the things that's fractal in its shape, then essentially you have in the future the possibility that we, projected forward, have the computing technology to run our own simulations of universes, and then we are ostensibly the gods of those universes, and those universes, in the same sense, then have the ability to eventually develop the computing technology to develop their universes, and so on and so on, and it's a fractal, and there's no real base original reality at all. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to think about it with time. But that's one of the problems for us.
Right. Well, it's unfortunately one of the constraints that we live in that limits our cognition, which really blows. if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
I think it's. I just I don't like that. I don't like that the idea that if it is a simulation that there's like it's like the guy from Jurassic Park. It's Newman in Jurassic Park, and he's like a computer programmer, and that's what's going on. Otherwise, there'd be some major glitches. People have been exploring the map for quite a while. There'd be something would have floated by now that shouldn't have or glitched out. I mean, it's getting pretty wacky, but it still makes sense. It's just a very strange story right now. The narrative is strange, not so much the physics of it or something. It's not like anything is.
But if it were like that, you
phasing
wouldn't
through
be
a
able
wall.
to comprehend the stability. You wouldn't be able to make assumptions about the stability of the universe. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be able to make any assumptions about what kind of being lives outside of the simulation. You're not allowed to speculate.
That's true.
Really.
Okay.
You couldn't say, "Oh,
fair,
well, it's Newman from Seinfeld." You can't say.
I'm just saying I don't like the idea that it's a basic human, that they're advanced humans in the future, like it's Elon Musk 2.0 and he made what we are. That's what some people I think reduce it to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't reduce it to that.
Like it's human achievement and now we're living in some future human achievement. I don't know. I don't like that version of it. It's just too limited.
I think that is too limited as well. I think we can scarcely speculate.
Yeah.
I think it's a possibility. I guess it's.
So if the simulation was true, then, and if this is a game, I think that puts all the religions and all the myth stuff right on the table. Like you might want to just play the game, do your achievements and stuff.
Well, sure. I would agree with that.
I'm already religious anyway, but for not, aside
Are you
from
religious?
Jesus, I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
But I would say if you're not religious, but you did see it as a simulation, you could say, well, I mean, maybe these are the rules of the simulation game. So this is obviously what works for the rules of the game.
That's a Pascal's wager situation. Are you familiar with Pascal's wager?
I've heard the phrase, but I forget the
Pascal,
details.
basically, he came up with this idea, a brilliant logician. If all is pointless and meaningless, you have nothing to lose by placing your bets. So why not place your bets and say, I believe in this God, and just as a sort of casino wager, say, well, the one that's prevalent right now seems like a pretty good bet, so why not just be with the religion of the time as an insurance policy against eternal damnation? Right. And if you are wrong, then you blink out of existence anyway. So what's the risk? Mm-hmm. And then obviously the counter argument to that is, yes, but surely if there is a God that is truly omniscient, he will know that he will say, oh, you're one of the Pascal's wager guys, send him to hell. Right? Right. So he will be able to pick up on that, he or she or it or whatever you want to call it.
We might have talked about that before, but
so,
it's
right. So that's the Pascal's wager situation. So my sort of thinking on it is, if there is a God, that's fine with me. I think it's more likely that there are gods, as in maybe, some sort of omniscient aliens or something like that. I don't even know. But all I can do is follow intuition, research, think, and go about my business. And that right now has led me to the sort of belief, because all humans have a tendency to believe with our reptilian brains, that religion is a very interesting thing. It is very useful. It is an evolutionary advantage to the people who latch on to it. I have deep respect for religion and deep respect for mythology.
The old Joe Rogan outlook. But
my
I'm not
religion,
saying he invented that.
My religion is swimming among them, appreciating them individually. I can go to a Hindu temple one day, and a Buddhist temple the next, and a Catholic church the next, and I can feel the sense of spirituality that I think a religious person feels. I really do. I really do. Not that I actually believe that there's something there, but I have a deep sense of there being magic in the universe and there being magic in the world. I have a deep sense of magic, and I think that that's totally irrational. But my deep sense of magic has nothing to do with any particular dogmatic persuasion. Yeah. But I don't have anything against it either.
Going along, like if there's a simulation or there's truth or there is a God or it's aliens or whatever, there seems to be that there is a separation between like the works of man and the natural order or the natural world as far as perfection. You see, like human beings, they are capable of great things, but usually it's when they do it in the service of a higher ideal and not for their own selfish purposes, because they're selfish. I mean, that leads to the situation that we find ourselves in right now with the stock market crashing, an orange man as the president. Everybody can't even go outside without a mask. It's just a complete insanity. It's a comedy show of horrors. But if you look to the natural world, you just see, tranquility, beauty, perfection over long periods of time, systems that sort themselves perfectly. All the stars and even the fallen bad parts of it they're a little bit. They seem different than the kind of stuff that human beings involve themselves with.
But it depends on. I don't know.
I know that we're natural too. I know we're natural as well. I'm just saying, there's something about being conscious that apparently removes you from. I guess nature is cruel too. Nature is pretty messed up.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
If you were a marmoset and you were looking at the world as a marmoset from your marmoset perspective, you would say that the universe is a cruel bastard who kills 3 out of 5 of your babies and does so in the form of a carnivorous mammal.
It could just be that human beings' capacity for understanding just makes theirs like a distended, obviously apparent, colorful version of what already exists.
I think nature is already doing a self-correct. I mean, the coronavirus, if it's not man-made and a conspiracy, then it's probably something that is actually from a bat or a pangolin, and it is a natural, not self-correction. I don't even want to go that far, but it is something that pops out when you have dense populations. The fact is that actually, and this is a fact, diseases are rare, very rare, among non-social animals. Look at pandas, for example. If you take a panda and you measure the diseases among pandas that spread virally, you'll find, or even bacterially, you'll find very few. And the reason is because when a panda finds another panda, it's like, oh my God, this is the first woman I've ever seen in my life. It's the most beautiful. She's so bad. What is it? I've never I've been eating bamboo for 35 years, and suddenly, what is this? We must mate, and then it's done, and then they go their separate ways, and they continue eating bamboo. But when it comes to insects, which are very social creatures who live in large communities and act as a body in a sense, they get the parasites popping out of their foreheads on blades of grass.
Right.
And human beings who live close together, who act as a whole in terms of societies, in terms of governments, and in terms of the internet even, we act as a whole, and for that reason, we are the same as insects in a way. I mean, if you were an alien looking at the planet, you would say, oh, the ants, they're very social, and the humans, it's about the same, though. I mean, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I guess, when herd animals, if they don't have enough predators around and they get too big, they end up coming up with certain, diseases that befall them. It's a natural
correction. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that this could just be something that's happening on a macrocosmic scale. So I
don't accept
agree.
the premise necessarily.
Yeah, I might not accept my own premise. It was kind of a what if.
Well, it's an interesting what if, but I do see your point that it's sort of it's an enlargement of it. It's a way to say, wow, look how extreme it can be. We make it
just something
we
grotesque about humans, but maybe it's our own perspective that can see it as grotesque. Maybe animals just think that we're just a different kind of animal. But I mean, there is something grotesque about it. It's just a little bit different. Like when you see just imagine some giant fat guy eating a cheeseburger and driving at 90 miles an hour and hitting a deer and it's splattering. I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't happen in nature.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
He's on his way to a different level.
He's on his way to an audition for My 600-Pound Life. And he's eating.
And it's okay to be fat. I'm just saying it's not something that happens in nature like that.
I do want to get into some of the measures as we move
for the stock market, or for the humans.
For the humans, let's start with the humans. So, UBI is one possibility. You can tell that I sequestered a burp there. UBI.
Oops, sorry.
So you got the possibility of UBI sending people $1,000 a month or more. You've got the idea of doing small business loans for 0 or low interest. You've got the possibility of maybe having people borrow against their future tax returns. I've heard that idea. What idea do you think
That's-
makes? Yeah, that's what I've heard anyway. Or that people that can pay the zero interest loans with their future tax.
What I
want to
know is where is all this money coming from? Since the only issue that we've had about not being able to have better health care or
where does
student
that
loans.
$500 billion come from? That $500 billion
Now,
disappeared
all of a sudden,
within
there's
1
no
hour.
level of money that doesn't exist. Well, now we have, because we did always have unlimited. I mean, they just print it. They don't care.
It's
they
the irony.
just make it.
Yeah, it's extreme irony. Yeah,
but
for sure.
they talked about it like it was serious for the last however long Bernie Sanders has been in the public eye. They've been saying it's impossible.
It's
and now
clearly a
there's
cop-out. Now. There's no excuse. If you make $500 billion disappear in 1 hour, you no longer have any excuse for anything.
Yeah, where does that money come from? And if you aren't taking it from tax dollars, why don't you just make some more and give us some of it? It's only fair.
Well, where do you think that comes from? The focus or the emphasis on giving breaks to Wall Street and financial organizations to stabilize the stock market because that's the thing that's going to destroy the economy, as opposed to giving people who don't have jobs anymore the same amount of salary they would have had, or maybe making sure that people don't have to worry about the cost of testing or the cost of healthcare. These are the things that are actually going to destroy the economy, the things that happen on the individual basis, the things that happen on the individual level. So what's the decision factor, and do you think that's going to shift at all? What's your take on that, Gabe?
Well, I mean, since the 2008 crisis, I mean, basically they bailed out the banks rather than any what they call Main Street people, small businesses, regular people. They had banks that should have just gone out of business that they decided to give $700 billion. I think that was the loan package. And they rewrote the rules to where...
Wait, what's the $7 billion for?
$700 billion.
700, what's that for?
That's what Obama gave the banks in 2008. I think it was...
So wait,
maybe
wait.
Bush did that.
$700 billion to the banks, and today they spent $500 billion for an hour of.
I think some of the stuff about what they're doing with these cash injections into the market, it's not necessarily giving it to them on a permanent basis. It's to provide more liquidity, which is liquid assets that can actually be used. So if you have traders that are trading in the stock market and they sell, then the bank has to be able to provide cash to whoever sold. And if everybody's selling at once, the banks don't have enough cash on hand.
Right, so they're not
the
printing.
Federal government, right. Well, the federal government then provides $1.5 trillion in liquidity so that the banks won't go under. Like it'd be like having a run on these giant banks if everybody's selling at once.
So they're essentially deflecting the Mary Poppins scenario.
They've been doing that for a long time. I think since last year. It's called the repo market, where they just keep pumping this money in. However, they're doing something different now as of the last few days, where they're actually literally buying, I think, bonds and stocks, $40 billion worth. So that $500 billion pump, I think that was just, I mean, I'm not sure in all the ways that they pump it in. They do different kinds of pumps, but they seem to have unlimited amounts of cash and resources to just blow into this thing that we've elevated to such importance, which really the only time it affects people is when it's negative. The positive effect in the stock market doesn't really translate to regular Americans. It's only a factor in their lives when something like this happens, when it's negative. And then the banks come for their loans because they need the money, or they foreclose on their house. So we've made this giant, which is basically like a virtual casino for people with billions of dollars who are betting like crazy people to inflate prices far above their actual worth. I mean, we talked about that last time we talked, but what's occurring with the coronavirus thing is it's basically a revaluation of what actual worth is. You think Boeing is worth this much superficially, and now you are really realizing what Boeing is worth, and across all companies.
But that is also skewed because you can't say Boeing is worth what it currently looks like it's worth because people aren't flying because of the coronavirus. So there is some.
I guess more of the inflation maybe would be with like tech companies that are supposedly worth certain amounts of money that there is actually no known value on. Its potential value.
Well, but that also is highly, well, not subjective, but it's highly relative depending on the context, right? It's hard for any company, I think, establish a clear value in a free fall market that is reliable. When you're talking about airlines, if you want to say, oh, well, the value has dropped to what it actually is, or some sort of baseline value for airlines, that's not accurate either, because nobody wants to fly anywhere. So eventually people will, and that means that the value is actually higher.
Very little for sure about the stock market, but from what it seems, what the worths that have been assigned and the way it operates is pretty far from reality. It's like just a funny money game that just keeps inflating and creates these forms of wealth that aren't actually attached to reality. They're more like it's idea money. It just keeps getting puffed up. But because companies operate under the basis that they are going to continue to profit, their stocks are going to continue to rise, they can't go down, or they just become insolvent. Like as soon as things go bad, they have nothing anymore, and then they crash on everybody else in America, and then we're in a bad situation. But it shouldn't have ever gotten that high in the first place. I think I really don't know what I'm talking about, but that's my perception, and I could be completely wrong. But it seems like they're very desperate to prop this thing up. They're not worried about regular, American consumers. They're desperate to keep this weird.
Well, okay, so where does the rubber meet the road? In other words, where is, number one, the point where the value of the market actually affects people's lives? And two, where does it make sense for the government to say, geez, if we don't do something immediately for these normal middle-class people, then we are going to be in grave jeopardy as well? When does it make sense to go there as well? And what kind of measures need to be taken when we do go there, or when they do go there?
I don't know. I think it's so complicated that it's hard to say anything, because even the money that exists is it changes the value of the dollar, the value of the yen. They're always fluctuating. Gold, even the price of gold is fluctuating. It's not on the gold standard.
Right.
So it's really hard to say.
So to simplify
it's true.
To simplify it, I guess, what needs to be given to normal people like me and you, except not me and you, because we both work from home and we're fine. We are fine compared to everybody else. Compared to everyone else, we're fine.
I actually just got put on full-time work at home right before this happened.
Yeah, people are really loving English courses these days.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing else to do.
I mean, I don't know what exactly would happen, but you'd think there would be a huge amount of. I mean, poverty leads to all kinds of different crises, right? Healthcare crises, people. I mean, more crime. There's just more,
right. So if you assume that there's dramatic social instability as a result of financial uncertainty among individuals in the middle class, in particular, lower middle class people, what is the optimum solution to it? Is it giving people money?
I would say so. I mean, if the stock market is no longer, the stock market keeps going down because people are realizing the companies don't have that value, that perceived value, well, then the real value would come from the consumer actually giving them money for the services. And if the consumers don't have money, they can't purchase the services. So if you really want to make a cash injection that where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, you give it to the American consumer, and they will purchase services of companies that do have value, and that will create, a boom in the economy.
But isn't that a false premise? Because people behave differently under a pandemic than they would under normal situations. I mean, who's going to go on a cruise right now? The idea of propping up the cruise industry is absolutely absurd. Like, thanks, government, for giving me $10,000 a month. Now I'm going to go on a cruise.
We can't let these ships sink.
It's insane. The idea that you just give people money and they're going to buy more of everything is ridiculous because it depends on what it is.
Well, I guess
it
just depends on what you want to have around. Like, if you're in charge of the country, and do you want to have a cruise industry? Do you need one? I don't know. I mean, but there's also people whose jobs are affected by that. Or can you just put the
cruise industry on pause? Just say, all right, we're in a crisis. Cruise industry, pause. Let's give people $5,000 a month. They're going to buy more groceries. They're going to buy more entertainment at home. They're going to buy certain things.
I could see why they would prop up the airline industry, because we're going to want to take flights again after the coronavirus. So you don't want all the airlines going out of business.
That's right. But you also want to acknowledge that spending behavior is fundamentally different in a pandemic situation. That there are some things that are fundamentally... Okay, I understand. You want to prop up things that will exist in the future that people don't want to pay for right now. It's true that they should be able to absorb it by themselves, but if they can't, you don't want them to completely collapse. At the same time, you have to acknowledge that during that, because you don't know how long it's going to last and there's a lot of uncertainty, that there are certain inherent things that people are willing to pay for and certain inherent things that people are not. People are willing to pay for food, obviously, for things that make them feel secure, obviously, for masks and sanitizer and that sort of safety stuff, obviously, but also for home entertainment, obviously, home education, obviously. Luckily, I'm in that category. And a lot of other things that make people feel good when they're at home, make people feel like when they get over this or get out of this situation that they're going to be all right and they're going to be even a step ahead of where they were before. People want to catch up. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be the end of a lot of... There's no way you can save everything when something like this happens. There's always going to be things that really just fall through the cracks and you don't get back because you can't prop up every single thing. Some things are just going to become less important.
The kumquat industry.
Yeah, it's done. Toast.
Outsies. Yeah. It's a non-essential tropical fruit. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. UBI as opposed to borrowing against tax returns?
Definitely, yeah.
Tax
Nobody
refunds?
wants to take... I mean, they want those tax returns in the future. Why do they want to...
Yeah. But
That's
then
not
people
fair.
say UBI is just handouts. Some people don't need it. Some people do.
Well, I think Mitt Romney said it was for people that make under $65,000. But I guess you don't know necessarily. I mean, some people that make over that amount might be in a tight spot based on what they're paying. I don't know. You're supposed to sell like your car in order to buy groceries. I mean, certain people, I don't know, don't always live within their means, no matter what income level they're at.
That's true.
If you make over $5 million or $1 million, I don't know what the level would be, but maybe not everybody should get a UBI check, but I don't know.
But there's a trade-off there because you either get the UBI check flat without questions, or you have a gigantic system of administration to figure out who gets it and who doesn't. Then you have to hire a bunch of people to figure that out. Then you have to pay for that.
Unless you just make it a clean number. I think Mitt Romney said under 65,000. So
maybe.
That's the only problem with that is that Mitt Romney mentioned it. Nobody wants to do what he does.
Right. That's right.
On anything. So
all right. Can we take a pause because I have to pee? And
I actually do too.
All right. So
what do we get? Like a 2-minute break?
Let's pee, take a 2-minute break, and then come back and talk about the debate.
It's kind of the pink part kind of ruins it.
Mine, I don't know if mine's gonna go around my headphones, but yeah. Oh, I guess it does. So I wore.
You look like Bane.
This is a cover photo right here, Gabe.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking actually when I went and got it.
This feels cover photo.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yours looks very cyberpunk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's pink though. I don't know if it comes through in the color of this, but it's pink.
Okay,
It's
it looks
not quite as cool.
kind of dark red, but they got to be uncomfortable.
That's pretty comfortable. The only problem is that I have this beard here, so it's not actually working.
You have that beard there because
There's this beard down here.
you decided to grow it. Yeah.
We're going to talk about the debate.
Oh yeah. Okay, so let's get into the presidential debate between Bernard Sanders and Joe Biden.
Maybe first off, we should do a short roundup of all the dumb stuff that's happened with the primaries so far. So Elizabeth Warren, obvious sellout, fake, fraud, snake person.
Yeah.
Buttigieg gone, thankfully. That was great.
But you have to acknowledge that Klobuchar, Buttigieg, and
they all teamed up together. They had a special team huddle at Obama.
They all decided to
and they all went out. Yeah.
drop out and endorse Biden. Oh, I almost said Obama, but whatever.
Oh, Biden.
Oh,
well,
Biden.
he says that too.
Oh, Biden. Yeah, he says that.
Obama.
I feel like I have.
I'm President my boss.
President my boss. Praise. The guy. the guy up there.
They must have had him on some crazy drugs for this debate because he was pretty lucid.
That is exactly the thought I had. I thought, how many things did they pump him up on to sound remotely coherent before this debate? They must have pumped him full of uppers and downers.
Lorena thought that he looked like a robot. Like she was saying his face didn't look the way it
There's
used to look.
something about his forehead that's pulled back.
It almost looked like he had some. I mean, talk about conspiracies, but it looked like they peeled his scalp back and they implanted like a new motherboard on the top.
Yes,
and they were driving him around.
I had the same exact thought when I was watching the debate.
Who knows what they do?
He seems like he is. Obviously, his brain is falling apart. And if he were president, it would be a disaster.
His head look like that? That's kind of strange.
His skin looks like it's the thing from that Star Trek movie where those people have their skin pulled back.
So
he
Alex
doesn't have
Jones
any emotion.
Right, they are actual lizard people.
He is like a lizard person. He really is. He really is. And he was remotely coherent, although he lied 4 or 5 times blatantly.
Which does show that it's still Joe Biden. I mean, if he's capable of lying to that level, he's lying just like Joe Biden always has.
I don't know why people weren't jumping all over that. There is that famous video on the internet of him saying, I voted for Social Security 3 times. Every solitary thing in the government, including Social Security, 3 times. He says it very clearly. It's a very famous video. And then he blatantly said during the debate.
Well, they're not going to call him out for it on CNN. That's never going to happen.
But Bernie did. I'm glad Bernie at least did that thing. He stuck with it.
So, we don't have to do a primary roundup then. But Elizabeth Warren, I guess, just real quick, I want to mention Andrew Yang. Elizabeth Warren, I knew was bad since 2016. So I was already done with her a long time ago.
You wrote a song about it. Yeah.
Wrote a song about it. Really don't like Elizabeth Warren. But, not surprised. So it didn't break my heart. Didn't make me mad. I was just like, of course.
Yeah.
Andrew Yang, I did believe his song and dance for a little while, and I think we text during the debate sometimes what's going on.
We do.
And a couple times in a few of the debates, he said something stupid that just made me. It was so against his platform that I was like, well, he's not really serious then. I'm out. I can't continue to support this.
At what point did you consider yourself out? What was the tipping point?
It was something really stupid and that other people would consider superficial. But he made a joke about Donald Trump's his first call with Vladimir Putin or something. He said, "Sorry, I beat your boy Trump" or something. He just went along with the Russian part. Yeah,
the classic,
which for most people would not be important. But one of the things that I like most about him when I went and saw him in person, it was March 10th, 2019. I saw him in Columbus, Ohio, and one of the main parts of his speech, I hope
in
that
VR.
Yeah, in VR, in very bad VR. My lenses were scratched, but it's still there. Anyway, he mentioned that one of the problems with the establishment was that they make it about Russia. They make it about things it's not about. It's really about the economy. That's why Donald Trump won. It wasn't because of Russia. So to see him go against that because he's talking to a different audience,
suddenly
told me he's lying to me. Then you're just taking me for a different type of person.
That's interesting. So you see, basically, you see it's plain because number one, you interacted with him personally.
Right.
The personal interaction felt like a betrayal as soon as he said that on a different stage in front of a different audience.
Even after that, I thought he was still. I mean, he didn't go with Medicare for all. He
backed off of it.
He backed off of it.
Although he made a great case for it.
I still remembered because I met him and I shook his hand and it's the very beginning of my VR video. I said that I voted for Jill Stein in New York. It didn't matter, but I basically was saying I couldn't vote for Hillary, and he said to the camera, "Well, I supported Bernie in 2016. If you supported Bernie in 2016, there's no way you wouldn't support him in this election as soon as you're out." I mean, his crowds are so closely aligned to many degrees. So I was really surprised as soon as he didn't immediately endorse Bernie Sanders when he dropped out. I already knew that he opted out of a bunch of stuff he should have been for. I was already disappointed in him, but I thought, well, this will still be good because we'll get him backing by Bernie, and it will be, things will go well. When he was silent, I was already, I mean, like I said, I'm learning how much of an idiot I am. I'm gullible. I can be duped.
Right. Conspiracy theory, Gabe.
Yes. But it was so that was disappointing. But then when you texted me and said he just endorsed Biden, that was like, really? He was a true snake the whole time. He was just pretending. He was lying to my face.
Was he lying to your face, or is he just a weakling? Is he just an intellectual weakling?
He could just be a weakling, yes.
That's a possibility too. That because there's the person who says, "Oh, I have a grand plan to endorse Joe Biden, and eventually I'm going to do it, but first I'm going to dupe all of these Ohioans." Yeah. Or there is the I have intentions, and then I get corrupted. There's that person, right? I mean, I think
that's what it was. And I wish I would have just asked him in the moment, "Are you actually going to stick with these, or are you going to cop out in the end?"
Yeah.
Just tell me right now, because I'm not going to support you unless you say that you are going to stick with these things. Yeah, he could just say yes or no.
I think that you can't underestimate the importance of a person like Bernie Sanders. Not to sound like a Bernie Sanders fanboy, but you have to appreciate that all of those years of coercion and attempts and trying to corrupt him, he's this very essentially unflappable person who can't be corrupted.
Yeah, but Bernie already,
But on the other hand, he's so far to that side, he's had to overcompensate to such degree that he's now not a good politician. In a sense, he's not close enough to the levers of power to be Lyndon Baines Johnson, who brings the press to his ranch and treats them to spare ribs and makes them all his lapdogs, right?
We watched Lincoln, right? All the wheeling and dealing. You do need to wheel and deal. I agree.
Okay.
I'm not saying...
But so you can't have both. He's so pure that he's not close enough to the levers of power maybe to be someone who can win, unfortunately.
Well, Bernie has been principled across time, but the problem is that he doesn't seem to have the complete guts to go with his principle. I mean, he already did, like what Yang just did, in my opinion. He did a lot worse when he backed Hillary Clinton after campaigning against everything that she stood for.
I think he really saw. I honestly think, and I could be wrong, but I honestly think that he, in his heart, thought that Donald Trump was that much of a threat.
I know, because he gets caught up in that social justice warrior end of liberalism.
To an extent, yeah. That's
There's
maybe
these guys saying negative things online, so I do announce that I am resigning as president because some of my fans said something racist.
You're right, condemning his own fan base and saying things like, "I will support Joe Biden no matter what." Why does he have to say that? He doesn't have to say it so often. Right. He could say Joe Biden is a douchebag and I hate him and he's stupid and he's immoral. He
Joe
could say
Biden
those things, but he
and
doesn't.
Hillary Clinton are both everything that I'm fighting against, yet I will back them when I'm done.
It's a mistake.
That mean that it's not just a mistake, it's a betrayal. It's like, what's the point? Why would I support you if you're just going to be the opposite of what I'm supporting? But I guess not everybody's in it for the same reason. Some people it's about very specific policies. But people that are in it for the so-called revolution, I mean, those are the people that get really disappointed, and those are the people that don't vote for you. That's why Donald Trump wins and not Hillary.
I think it's a major miscalculation on Bernie's part. That is a weakness. First of all, I don't think Bernie has a deep enough understanding, and as I read more of this LBJ book, Passage of Power, the more I realize
Did you mention that?
I think I did.
I'm sorry.
I think in the last discussion we had, I mentioned it. So
yeah, you did.
LBJ had a profound understanding of the mechanisms of power, and he had the right program in his mind. Right, he had a real interest in fighting for social justice, but he was also a schemer. He would do immoral things. He understood the levers. He would push the levers. He would be dishonest. He would lie. He would cheat. He would do whatever he could. So he had it's sort of a contradiction. There's a pure heart that wants to fight for the right things, but in the most devious possible way. In a way,
sometimes you need a real son of a bitch.
But Bernie seems to be someone who will say, "I'm against the media. The media is my enemy," and rather than saying, maybe the media can come and hang out at my house in Massachusetts, Vermont for a few days, and I'll treat them to some coleslaw or something.
And it doesn't really work that way anymore either. It's not like it used to be in the 60s. But you really could see a perfect melding between Bernie and Tulsi, because she is the attack dog against things. She doesn't care at all. She'll just go out and bite people for.
Right. I don't think that Bernie would choose her.
I don't think. Well, last time you said it was likely that she would choose her, and I said I didn't think it was likely, and I still don't think it's likely. But I'm just saying, if it was an optimum situation would be if they were together, because she
Yeah.
could do the hard parts of
Yeah.
his ideology, and if he was in control of the ideology, it would probably work pretty well.
I think it could
But he
work
needs
pretty
somebody
well.
like that.
He needs an attack dog for sure. He needs someone to just bite people in the face, because he has a tendency to be too soft. Whenever he says, "I will," it drives me crazy. I will back whoever the nominee is. Why do you have to go out of your way to say that so many times? You could say it once at the beginning of the campaign, but you don't have to say it over and over and over again.
That's what's it's nice about Trump, just to see how little he cares about anything. He just goes on his own personal narrative. Even with the coronavirus, his press conferences, he's just still trying to spin it his own personal way.
Okay.
It would be nice if Bernie had a little bit of that. I mean, it's weird. You can pick and choose little things about people that are their best qualities. Nobody can be the perfect person or perfect candidate, but you can wish. You can maybe we can hack the simulation and make a Donald Sanders
going back
2.0.
Going back to the Andrew Yang thing, I think it just shows how easy it is to find some chips that appeal to people to the extent that they're willing to sacrifice what they originally thought they were fighting for. People go into anything with the assumption that they're fighting for the real things, and then they lose sight of it very quickly as soon as they get clout, reputation. So if you say, well, Bernie, Andrew, we really want to bring you on CNN. We even want to make you a panelist, and we want to make you a regular on CNN. And Andrew, there are even campaigns and talks with you about being the VP. What do you think about that?
Vice president.
Yeah. So I think Andrew bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And I think that he got caught up in being the guy who crowd surfs on his adulation, and the guy who thinks, I'm Andrew Yang and people love me. He got too much into the cult of personality aspect of it. He got caught up in his ego. He got caught up in the people asking for his wise political opinion, and I think he probably came into it with the best of intentions, but it shows how easy it is in a short period of time to buy someone out, and it's been done. The deed is done.
Yep, and I will not support him in anything again because of it, but in the same way I can see it is my fault too, because there's like the bias going into something where you hear more of what you are looking for than what the person is saying. He's always been about UBI first and foremost. So when he mentioned the tangential things that lined up with Bernie Sanders and progressivism, I probably just honed in on those parts. Like, well, I like that too. I'm glad he's standing for that as well. Without realizing that his only core fundamental principle is UBI. Though maybe he, didn't actually go for it, unless he thinks he can get Joe Biden to do UBI, more so than just because Tulsi says she's for UBI doesn't mean she's in the position to be able to, make UBI happen. So like if Donald Trump said, hey, Andrew Yang, can you be a part of my administration and, help UBI happen? Maybe that really is his core principle. I'm not really sure. It does seem kind of like he was crowd surfing and just saying what people wanted to hear now that I look back, but that's my fault. I got tricked by Obama, and I guess I got tricked by Andrew Yang. It's good to realize how susceptible you are to certain people. I mean, I think people that believe in Elizabeth Warren were dumb, but I also believe in Andrew Yang, so I'm not so smart either.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth Warren not only shot her potential actual power base in the face, but she shot herself in the face on many, many occasions. Her political calculation ability is absolutely ridiculous. She makes such dumb mistakes that she thinks one characteristic of her is the qualification, the fact that she's a woman. She's so bought into that she's forgotten everything else, and that she used to care about anything else seems to be completely lost to her. And I find it bizarre and insane and strange and disturbing on every level.
She has a chip missing somewhere. She's not getting the whole picture.
It seems like her, if there's a smart political decision, even obvious to a normal dummy like you or I, she's just completely over her head. Completely. 100%.
It's baffling. You're gonna purposely stab Bernie Sanders on stage and say he's a sexist, and then go out and accuse his supporters of being sexist. I mean, what do you think you're doing to that whole movement? You're not playing a political game to win people over. You're creating new enemies.
And what do you think you're going to
yourself.
get out of it? Do you think that the establishment is going to love you now? No, they don't like you either. Nobody likes you now. Everyone hates you because you're.
Well, I mean, who knows? She could still be Biden's VP. I don't know. He said he's going to pick. Didn't he say he? I forget if it was just picking a woman or a woman of color as well.
No,
I
he
think
said
he
would
gonna,
pick a woman. He said he would pick a woman. He said,
I thought he was going to pick a transgender woman of color only.
A transgender woman of color. It's interesting that that's the single news story that came out of the debate. That really is the only thing people were focused on. Joe Biden is committed to choosing a woman. The identity.
Sarah Palin.
Yeah, there's a lady from the Sunny D and Rum, that YouTube video that everyone saw a few years ago.
Did you mention that to me
last
video?
I did.
I still haven't seen that.
Every time I have a conversation, I mention it with someone.
That'll be on the soundboard.
Yeah, it's a good song. Search Sunny D and Rum on YouTube. And you will find wonders that you'd never had imagined before.
Search it right now.
I don't blame you.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, I interrupting is my bread and butter.
Picking a woman
and the ease of being bought and the ease of making people give up even their ego-driven campaigns is something that I learned from this particular campaign. And that understanding the levers of power is more important than maybe Bernie Sanders might imagine. So on the Bernie Sanders front, levers of power, LBJ, giving spare ribs to the journalists and inviting them to your ranch. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in a very simplistic sense, because there is a way for him to coerce the media into being on his team rather than declaring his animosity toward them. On the Pete Buttigieg front, it's sadness that someone who is totally ambition driven and would sell out immediately. I am no fan of Pete Buttigieg, obviously, but he immediately just collapsed. He caved immediately. It's obviously
but see, that's the thing. I really they're probably just getting long-term deals.
Right, exactly.
They're saying, so we're going to finance your next campaign. You're going to be plugged in here. It's as though it's all
solidifying against actual things that I want to happen.
It's disturbing to see the people making a choice. The people recognize a problem by picking a candidate that speaks about the problem in a way that's honest, and the people vote for that person because they want that person to be president. And then these snakes in power, they pull every lever, every string they have available to them, and
it's enough.
Gradually constrict until
it's enough.
Well, so
it's
far
more
it
than
hasn't enough.
Yeah,
but I mean, this isn't over yet, and the coronavirus could be the thing that makes. I mean, Bernie might win despite it because it's proving his point.
The last ray of hope is Donald Trump. He's proof of concept that people can get what they want. I
was just listening to Jimmy Dore was talking to Dylan Radigan, that guy he always likes to play. But anyway,
I don't listen to Jimmy Dore. I
know,
annoys
but
me on a personal level.
Well, that's fair, but he's usually ahead of the curve as far as what's going on. I think to a degree. They were talking about Trump only wants to be liked, and this crisis could end up making UBI, universal health care, all permanent under Trump. He could institute them. He then would be like a great president if this
savior of the people.
Yes, he ends up having Bernie Sanders' platform out of circumstance.
That would be hilarious. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't be upset
Who would?
by that.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
That would be incredible. I'm fine with it. I
don't know if it would happen.
Because I feel like at least Donald Trump is pure in the sense that he's
all about number one.
Yeah, in the sense that he was able to he's the enemy of the media, he's the enemy of normal establishment. He made it. He is the president. Everyone hates him who is in any position of power, almost.
That's what I'm saying, right.
And
I like guns because Pete Buttigieg doesn't like guns. I like Donald Trump because, CNN doesn't like Trump.
Yeah. And there's nothing likable about
They
Donald
make the
Trump.
choice for you, yeah. But you have to go. It's more democratic. Oh, you don't like this guy. Well, there must be something good about it.
Yeah. Maybe I've misjudged Trump.
No, really. If all the mechanisms of power, I mean, they've tried to get this guy so many times.
Yeah.
You know, the Russiagate thing, the impeachment, and it never sticks. It never works. All of his advisors turn on him and try to say things about him in the press, and it always goes against them. He's like I don't know. It's
well, that's
interesting.
my sort of proof against conspiracy theories, partially because of Trump's ability to Teflon Don it away. You know what I mean? It's his ability to, if it were truly
he makes it out of this
a
coronavirus.
global, well, yeah, if he makes, and I'm sure that he probably will. It's his ability to deflect and avoid and control the status quo that prevents me from believing any sort of overarching conspiracy theory that people normally believe.
He's
the
just
government's
a
behind it.
supernatural figure.
I mean,
he's like a
Yeah.
he's
a splice in the
he's
in the
not really
simulation.
that good at anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird because he's a failure and a success. His businesses all failed. He went bankrupt, but he brought them back somehow.
We brought them back with his TV show.
Basically, so which is weird and crazy. And then he converted that into the presidency. Now he has all the nukes, the actual nuclear bombs. He is in charge
He's
of.
the most powerful person on the planet Earth right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And he doesn't necessarily believe in not shaking hands or getting tested for coronavirus.
Right.
But he's
Right. Yeah.
and he eats McDonald's mostly.
He's a splice. He is
Maybe it is a character from Jurassic Park, the Newman character, because
he's an A/B test. An A/B test is when you have two versions of a program and you want to test a newer version against specific cohorts. So he's been spliced in from version 3.0.
Oh, okay.
Or in
That's
2.0.
nice.
He's been spliced in, and we're being A/B tested to see how we respond to a 3.0 character in a 2.0 universe.
I'm okay with the splice. It's better than the old characters.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not. You and I are not even supposed to be here. We're supposed to be. We're in a different. We're in Alpha universe, and now we're in Delta. So it's New York Darkly, Western Beef.
Yeah, this is a hard situation to describe, but it's a real thing that I think both of us believe in.
I do. I really do. I think about it a lot. Do you? So to anyone listening, maybe I can just explain what happened. So one day, Gabe and I were walking in. Gabe's the person I'm talking to here.
I'm Gabe. Hi. I'm in the story too.
Gabe, I think we need some sound effects for this. So we were walking in Flushing, and I think it was because my wife was at a job interview, and Gabe and I, who's my brother, this guy, we were walking along, going for a walk, chatting, and this was during the time when the primaries were going on in 2016, and we saw a supermarket, and the name of the supermarket was something that we had never heard or even imagined before. Western Beef is the name, Western Beef, and we thought, how can this place be real? How could it possibly exist?
It had such a cartoony logo. It seemed fake. It was
aura.
Like somebody just dropped it in, like Western Beef. This is a grocery store in the middle of Queens. I don't understand.
We thought, what is this? Do they sell just beef? What's going on here? So we go in, and it turns out it's an entire normal supermarket, bizarrely, with an entire gigantic room that is a freezer section. The whole room is a freezer section. And they have tea that's branded Western Beef, sort of like how you have generic brands in CVS. You have tea that's branded Western Beef. You have all kinds of things branded as Western Beef, this sort of bizarre thing. And when we stepped out of it, we felt that we had exited our original universe and come into...
There was such a maze of pathways through there. You didn't know where you were. Mm-mm. You turned around 8 different times. And by the time you came out, it just felt like you'd been through... It felt like we walked out into... And things were going on in the 2016 primary.
Yes.
When we walked into Western Beef...
This is great. You got the right tone, Gabe. What is this? Is this...
Huh?
Is this a C? What is this?
That was a C.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about music.
Well, that was...
How do you know that?
It felt like a C. Because I think that whatever universe we stepped into, It's got to do with the musical
everything
tones, in a
was going
sense.
perfectly for Bernie against Hillary in I think the New York primary season was coming up. This is when like the bird landed on his microphone.
Yep.
Everything was perfect. It was all going
lining
to
up.
plan.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we came out, the news changed, and it was negative.
And it started going dark, and a sharp note. Yeah. Yes.
It's descending.
It's exactly what happened. It's sort of like in Stranger Things when they come into the upside down. We felt like we had exited Western Beef in a different universe than we had entered, as though the Western Beef were in a sense a nexus between
it
planes.
was like that.
And there's a dark New York and there's a light New York, essentially.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I bought one item there, which was basically like Lipton tea.
Western
but this
Beef
was
brand.
Western Beef brand.
Yeah, right.
Lipton tea. Which doesn't make sense. If you have a tea bag, it shouldn't say Western Beef on it. And it certainly shouldn't be in New York.
This won't make sense to anyone listening to this, but from the universe that Gabe and I come from, that sort of thing is highly irregular.
We're the only
bizarre.
two people here that are from the other.
We come from a place which honestly is much better than this universe. There's this reality that exists that we come from on the other side of the Western Beef that I know it's hard to believe, but it is way better. As though if you were to if there were a coin flip, every coin flip, or at least slightly over 50%, would come up heads, which is positive. And that's just the way that that's the valence of the entire universe. And that's how we felt when we came out of Western Beef. We felt that we had exited the freezer section into a universe darkly, in a sense. And ever since then, I think both of us have shared that perception of reality. I think about it more than I'd like to.
It definitely happened, and I think we talked about the only way to reverse what occurred.
But the sound effects really helped. I really appreciate that. That really made it interesting.
No
Good.
problem.
Yeah.
The only thing we can do from here would be to go back to that Western Beef, and we'd have to do the exact same path, which would be very random. But if we walk backwards through the doors and go through everything we did and come back out the other side, we might be able to end up in the other universe.
What if we came out in a worse one, though? What if there is sort of a universe which still exists in 1980s New York with all of the graffiti? It's still there, you know?
Yeah.
It could be.
Could be, yeah.
Who's still, let's see, who would be the mayor at that point? I guess it would be Bloomberg, but 125 years old.
Bloomberg? Wait, yeah, when did he come?
He's 125.
Who was the mayor in the 80s? Was it Daley is the Chicago guy, right? Who was the mayor in the 80s in New York?
The guy in the, he was, it was, oh crap. I know it. Ed Koch.
The guy that has the bridge guy.
The guy who said, "How am I doing?" He'd always say that to people on the street. How am I doing?
Doing great, Ed. We're gonna build a bridge for you. I actually like that. I like that
the
bridge.
Prostitution in Times Square. It's great.
Well, sure. That bridge though, you can get into Manhattan for free from that bridge.
But that's something.
Well, if you're a poor person living in New York, driving a van and living in a van, and you want to get to Manhattan for free, that's the bridge you'd want to take.
Well, I don't know anybody like that, so.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Sounds like a stupid way to live.
Yeah. What an idiot. He'd probably send his mail to his brother's house.
Yeah. Am I late for jury duty?
Oh, yeah. Probably. Yeah, you have a little... I send you everything. So, I mean, I send a hypothetical situation, everything.
Well, I got out of jury duty by telling them that I was homeless.
Fair enough. But
Which
you
was
were.
true.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it wasn't actually true because I did live in a van. So that's...
Right, you're homeless
in
the legal sense.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you look back on that time living in the van as special, dark, terrible, wonderful? How do you look back on it?
It was kind of nice. I got tired of it at the end. But for the most part, it was pretty nice. I did it for exactly a year and a half, I think.
Exactly a year and a half. Do you regret
Yeah.
it? Do you think it was a good learning experience?
No, it
Interesting.
was the best. It was my favorite part about being in New York. Not that it
Really?
was so bad living with you, but I
Oh,
just always
thanks.
it was not a good circumstance for either of us, really.
Right,
And
right.
I always felt under the gun, and I felt guilty about
Yeah,
spending any money that I did for things to enjoy myself, and I never made enough to,
yeah.
um, you know, pay my fair share, and I had trouble figuring out how to, and it was just a kind of a stressful situation that created a not a good brotherly bond at the time.
Right.
I mean, not that we didn't get along, but it was an awkward situation to be in,
It
and
was. Yeah. And,
yeah,
frankly, being a married couple and having
some
your
guy
brother
hanging
live,
around,
well,
yeah,
not some guy, even no matter, it doesn't matter who it is.
right.
Being a married couple and not having, I don't know what it is
You're
exactly,
right.
but there's something about
I
I
should have
don't know.
left sooner, but we had like agreed, to a certain period of time. But yeah,
It's all water under the bridge now,
well,
I would
sure,
say.
and I still owe you money when I get some money together. When the government sends me my 3K, I'll get it
Why don't
right
you
over
just
to you.
sell your teeth?
My teeth aren't that great.
No.
I couldn't get a good price for them.
Um,
But I appreciate you thinking of that.
I'm still waiting for my.
This is how it was when I was living there.
Yeah. I'm a natural
The rent's
instinctual.
short. Well, you could sell your teeth. You're good with money. I mean, you're an intelligent guy.
I'm a
But
loan.
yeah,
I'm
I
a
would
loan shark
recommend.
at heart.
Yeah. I would recommend to anybody living in New York, not with your brother, but
Yeah.
in a van.
Yeah. I would recommend that you don't live in New York unless you feel like it's the right place for you. I wouldn't live here unless there was something about it that just made me feel comfortable, even though I don't go out that much. There's something about the city that makes me feel like I have no excuse for living here because I don't really go out that often. But there's something about being here that makes me feel like this is the place that I should be. And I don't know what
Yeah.
that is. It's an energy, is something or whatever. I don't know what it is. But when I was living anywhere else for the last 10 years, I felt like I wasn't where I should be and that I should be somewhere else.
No, there's something about the place I can see, and it's a certain kind of individual that feels at home there.
Yeah.
I felt at home in my own way, and I could enjoy it. I can enjoy almost any place in a certain way, but I mean, I don't know. It just wasn't for me long term, I guess. I couldn't figure out how to get a leg up in a way that would make sense for me, I guess.
You sort of got what makes sense out of it. I mean, you found a person
no,
who is
right.
your person, and that is
Yes.
the greatest thing that you
Yeah,
can get.
what more could you ever
What more could you ask for?
want? Yeah.
If you can find someone who is your person, which is extraordinarily rare, then
That's
what greater treasure could there possibly be? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And that sounds extremely cheesy, but that's a real thing for
It
sure.
is. No, I think of that. Like I remember my first night going there, and you drive across the George Washington Bridge, and you see the totality of lights that is New York City. It looks magical. It's like
Yeah.
but thinking that there is a person that's out there that is, the person that you're going to meet and you end up being with, that is, it's a good story, and it is a special thing.
Do you think that's
I think I arrived there on her birthday, actually. Isn't that strange?
That is strange. That's a
And also
bizarre
my
coincidence.
license plate. My last 4 digits of my license plate is her social security number.
What?
Yeah.
That's weird, man.
It is a little
Pretty
weird.
That is pretty
It's
weird.
pretty well if you're taking signs from the simulation.
And why would you move to New York? It also not necessarily an obvious thing. You know what I mean? It's sort of like what you could move
Well, I
anywhere.
guess yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. That is strange. That's
I'm
a
open to
strange
signs like
coincidence.
that, though. I'm a conspiracy theorist for signs.
Right.
I'll take a sign.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think I sometimes wonder if the universe is a spaghetti-like tube structure thing where events in time sort of picture
Oh, yeah.
time braid, right? So you picture a table. We talked about this. I talked about this in the Arrival podcast. But anyway, you picture a table and you extrapolate that through time. And what does it look like? A table looks like, if it's spinning around with the Earth around the sun, it looks like a braid sort of thing. But if you imagine all of the cells in your body moving around your body, circulating in your body, moving through time, then it's an extraordinarily complex braid structure moving through time. If somehow you were hypothetically able to step outside of that braid structure, you would see this ridiculously complex braid of a beginning and an end, but not a beginning and an end in time, just sort of a sort of finiteness of the universe, braid structure, the most complex of which are probably living beings, the most complex of which of those are probably thinking conscious beings. If there's some mechanism in that, which is conceivable, that allows a conscious being to sort of sniff 2 inches
through the walls.
sniff 2 inches ahead of the structure. It's there. The object is there. There is a timelessness about the universe. Time is, in a sense, an illusion in the sense that we're moving through it, and the universe is probably deterministic. Is there any smell of the future? Is there anything to the ideas that there is precognition or anything magical, not magical, but some sort of sense that we don't know about that allows us to just get a whiff
I think so. Yeah.
of the thing that's coming?
Yeah. So if you picture your spaghetti braid, that the past is here, but the braid goes down here, and then it eventually comes back up here. And so that the past and the future are actually close together, and you could sniff through the walls because
it's just a smell.
the dimensionality of it.
It's
yeah,
like smelling ramen
yeah. So
noodles through
I mean,
the wall
what
of your apartment.
four dimensions all time is concurrent or something, and it's all folding into itself. I don't know how it works, but it's different than being a linear timeline where, I mean, linearly things seem far away because one thing is here and one is here, but that's only in that dimension. I mean, in this same dimension, they're folded into themselves. They're right next to each other. So it makes a lot of sense that you could sniffing through the walls. That could be one. You could hear it. Yeah, you can. Maybe you can have dreams in the future. I don't know. Who knows what deja vu is? But it seems like all that stuff must be related. There's something to it. A lot of people that seem. I think a lot of great people from history always thought that they were fated to certain things. Right? They could tell with a certainty, well, I'm going to do that no matter what the risk, which gives them a great deal of bravery to be able to do things. It's almost like they know the future, they know the truth, which usually is their downfall.
The sample size is only the successful.
Very small.
Well, no, but also you don't hear about the people who tried that and live on the street now. So you only see the successful examples. Like you say, oh, a lot of people survived this epidemic,
Right.
But the ones who didn't survive didn't tell you anything because they're dead. Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
All the living,
I get
the wingsuit surfers, all the living ones.
Yeah. Dude, you got to try wingsuit surfing. Everyone who tries it loves it, and I haven't heard of anyone who doesn't.
It's sick.
It's sick. Makes me sick. All right, bro.
Gross.